So let me go over the chakras again, and I'll go out from that. See, you're not a one-dimensional being. We're multidimensional. Because of the complexity of our body, the vitality, that's the best word to use, the vitality runs through us and infuses itself in all our various organs, right? It's the same vitality, but it shows up differently due to the difference of the organic structures. The power of consciousness is one. But as it asserts itself through the organs of the eye, you have sight, not hearing. In other words, the oneness of consciousness is so rich, it can divide itself into modalities of expression. But it needs an organic structure to release to you its power. See, if you were to stare at consciousness straight on, all you would see was, as it were, one dimension. I wish I could find the right words. That one dimension, we'll call it that, one power of consciousness, interesting sound, huh? When it asserts itself through a material complex, what comes through is the power as it's shaped by that complex. So you change the complex, you discover consciousness can come through and vitalize that complex. So it's so rich. The only way we can appreciate it, in one sense, is to see the versatility manifesting through the different organs. And the major ones are these 6 chakras, because they in turn vitalize the various areas of the body that are under its domain. Now we have analogies in the body itself for this. You know, your blood's running through you, and it feeds into all your cells. And they're all different, in a sense. One blood, but it's showing up and vitalizing all the different kinds of cells in your body. But it's still one blood. So if you were to lose your sight or lose your ears, you don't lose the power. You lose the organic structure, because it's malfunctioning. So consciousness can't assert itself through it because it's not structured properly to release the power of hearing that's inherent in your consciousness. All your sensory powers are in your consciousness. And they're just waiting for the organic complex to put itself together properly so it can say, bingo, I'm going to express myself. Now, we have the boost of the third eye. The third eye pulls it all together. This is a special organ up here that sums up all the senses in one organ. You can see anything here, you can hear anything here, you can smell anything here. When Swamiji was at Menninger, he was sitting in the room having a conversation and a cup of chai, and what they didn't know is he was watching people in the next office through the wall. He was x-raying the wall. And he noticed one of them was having a little problem or something, and he said to one of the people here, go tell Ralph not to worry, it's going to work out, because Swami already saw the future for him. And Ralph turns around, what do you mean, Swami? How do you know what he's thinking about? Well, I see him. You know, it's casual. I see him. You see him? There's no window there. I know that. I see through the wall. Okay, hey guys, we're going to test them. Come on. So they made a phone call. They said, you guys start doing something you don't do normally in your office. And you tell me, Joe, what's going on the phone, and I'm going to ask Swamiji. And Swamiji started telling, one was opening up his drawers, another was going on a pencil sharpener. And that was reported on the phone at the same time Swamiji was telling him. So he proved it to him. Look, you got 5 senses. But you have one power, which has the power of all the senses. So if you can get that power away from the complexity of the body, it's free now to do whatever you want. All you have to do is have intent. So that's why he could be sitting there watching the movie with Davy and myself, and suddenly his head would go, he'd close his eyes, and I'd say to Davy, hey, he's off again. Let's see how long this takes. I used to time him. And he knew that, of course. And he'd come back, he'd ask me what's going on in the movie to bring him up to date. And occasionally I'd get bold enough to say, where'd you go, Swami? Oh, I went to Russia, or I went to South America. And he'd make a brief exclamation of why he went there. He said, the Institute, this is the Himalayan Institute, he said, this is only a small part of my work. Small part. He didn't tell me the rest. I asked Swamiji about other traditions. He says, yeah, they're genuine. There are many traditions that are genuine. Like the Sikhs, Guru Nanak. He introduced me to some wonderful Sikhs who just praised me to the hilt because Swami Rama. I knew General Grewal, who was head of Indira Gandhi's army. I've spent a night at his house. They treated me royally in New Delhi. And I met other Sikhs who were excellent rug salesmen, jewelers and stuff, Anything you want, Jess, we'll get it for you. No, I like the Sikhs very much. I was always impressed with them as gentlemen. Beautiful women. Okay. So, as you meditate now, what you're doing is you're tingling all your chakras. Even though you're concentrating up here. Because this is the master gland, not only of your body, but analogously of all the chakras. All of them open if this opens. He explained, he said, just as this is the master gland for your body, it's also the master chakra. If this opens, all the powers are at your hands. You can make yourself invisible. You can transport your body. Just think, I think I'll go to Vienna and listen to the choir on a weekend. See ya, zoom, I'm there. Invisible in the audience. And I'm enjoying all the music because I'm feeling all the vibrations. You have X-ray vision. You can levitate anything, including yourself, obviously. See, in other words, the universe and its power is in your palm. That's what he means in the Sri Vidya philosophy when he said, you are a nucleus and the universe is your expansion. Meaning, all of that comes to you because you'll respect it. You have reached such an ethical integration, you would never harm anybody. And as a result, you can literally call the shots. You'd know the future, basically. And you would continue to live as an ordinary human being. Because you've got to take care of this flesh. He used to say, don't try to get to the cities. The word cities means power, It's in the 3rd chapter of the sutras. He said, don't worry about that. Go for here. Get here. You get them all then. because this is the master gland. X-ray vision, anything you want. You will attract anything to you. All you have to do is intend it. Here at the heart, that's an expansion of personality, more or less like Nandamaya Ma. You couldn't help but fall in love with the woman, revere her. She just drew you to her. But her love then healed anything bothering you. So this takes you all the way too. If this opens up on you, now you become a Renoir, a Beethoven. All the creativity is here. And think about that. Where does your voice come from? What enables you to create a sound in space that communicates intention to another person? From here. So look at the analogy. We're already given the clues, but we don't know how deep, huh? Here's where we're the most creative. You're listening to me. I can't, if I shut up and think these thoughts, you can't pick them up. I have to vocalize them. I have to emit them. I am creating, literally, for the first time in our lives, a sound that's conveying a thought, a meaning, through this vibration. And it's all coming from here. Now, I'll tell you an experience I had, if you don't mind. I once had to go and give a 3-hour lecture to a group of nuns. But I was on fire. I just felt it. And I kept talking, and it just rolled. And I didn't get fatigued, which is unusual. And I felt so strong at the end of it. And the audience was absolutely still and taking it all in. They congratulated me, they loved it and all that. It was all on meditation and consciousness. And I knew something was going on, but I couldn't figure out what. So I got in the car, and watch what my hand does. I raise my hand to straighten out the mirror, and as my hand comes up, it feels a blast of heat. I said, wait a minute. I felt heat. There's no heat in this car. I raised it, a blast of heat. And I raised it. This chakra had opened, because I checked with Swami. She said, I opened it for you. That's why you moved the crowd.
Which chakra, Swamiji?
Throat. And the heat was still pouring out. Because it hadn't quieted down yet. Huh? Then I began to, start figuring things out, because he wanted me to start doing it as best I could myself, given the clues he was going to give me. Figure it out. Wow, huh? What a nice experience he gave me. Let me have the power which would influence. And that's what he said will happen. If this opens up, you will charm the world. Oh, I like that. Nobody can resist you. You will just feel, they'll be so enthralled when you talk, they'll just be so attracted to you. He says that's why sometimes singers have this open up and they don't know it. Well, of course, Bharati, right? So, we know what that means. He says, yeah, that's can do it. A lot of artists have this open and they don't realize it. It's partially open, not fully, but partially. So you can influence, the reality that this has an affinity for. You have met people, women more than men, that you feel, what a heart that person has. I mean, you speak that way. They just embrace you. This is open. This is opening more and more in that person. And when this opens, it integrates them all. You're loving, you're creative, and you're intelligent. To the nth degree. The tragedy is they were going to send Swamiji to the moon. Or in outer space. And the damn Americans in Washington thought, well, these Indians, they're close to the Russians. We better not send him up there. He told me that. NASA was going to do it. because they saw what he what he did down in Menninger, and they said, hey, we got to get this guy. Because Swamiji told me he was going to do experiments in communication from the moon down here, just verbally. He would talk verbally, and it would be picked up on the radio down here. Can you imagine what that would? Look what we could have set up in the country then. Holy smoke. But he said, I guess there wasn't time. He was sad that they did that. He wanted to do it. Because that was his mission, he told me. When I wanted to bring all the wisdom of our cave to the West. He stopped off, he did a lot of experiments in Germany, I think Frankfurt. He went to Russia, he was working with the Russian scientists in Moscow. He went to England, and then he finally came to us after Japan. He didn't do anything in Japan except work with a master teacher there that his master asked him to set up. All yoga really is an explicitation of the laws that make us human, that enable us, semicolon, to function at what I call our optimal wellness. See, I pulled a dirty trick when I wrote that book called The Wellness Tree. And the man who invited Swamiji down to Menninger caught it. Because I asked him for a comment. And when he read it, and we talked over the phone, he says, Justin, you pulled a fast one. This is nothing but yoga. I said, you're right. He saw it, what it was. The 6 steps in the wellness tree, huh? So, diaphragmatic breathing is an essential part of how the lungs function dynamically at an optimal level. Not just normal, but an optimal. The yogis recognize that because they simply investigated themselves. And that's what you do, you're a yogi. How can I make my body perform, operate, persist, recover in the most efficient way without harming myself? That's yoga, in one sense. Huh? So the most fundamental breathing modality for keeping yourself healthy, wealthy, and hopefully wise is to breathe diaphragmatically. Your metabolism works with it. Huh? Why do people have high blood pressure? Well, there's all kinds of reasons, but look how it affects the body. Something is causing high blood pressure. It's not the body fundamentally, it's what's going on up here. But what's going on up here has an immediate impact down here. The psychosomatic relationship. Huh? So we're a complex unity, an embodied mind. Everything that the mind does, the body is eavesdropping to follow suit. When you think an angry thought, what happens to your heart? Did you tell your heart to beat up? It read your mind. If you see something beautiful or a friend you haven't seen in a long time, how do you feel? Right. Because again, the joy, which is the response to that vision that you behold right now of your loving friend, expands you. You can't help it. Huh? So the yogis simply studied themselves in Swamiji's cave under circumstances that they would create, and they'd watch what their body and mind would do. But they were older men. They were in their 40s. So they were experiencing the world so they could bring those memories in with them, knowing how people operate. Huh? And so they use themselves as the guinea pigs. Now here's what, I'll tell you the story, what they did with Swamiji. For some reason or other, they saw Swamiji as the Mozart of yoga. They recognized it since he was a kid. So one day his master connived, you'll probably get me for this, with all his buddies. Now there were many men almost at the level of Swamiji's master, really sages. But they lived all by themselves in different caves. You know, they had their own friends, their own students, their own little coterie. So, unknown to Swamiji, they all ganged up on him. Here's what they did. Swamiji's master called them in one day and said, "Son, you know, you've learned a lot here, but I'd like you to see how other people do it. What their versions are." "Really? Yeah, I'm going to send you out. How would you like to?" "I'd love to. I know. You like to travel. You like to explore and experiment. I'm glad for that. So here's a list of names, and you're going to go visit these guys. They know you're coming. And stay as long as you have to, and see what you can learn from them. See if, okay," and as he's about to dash off with the list in his back pocket, he says, "Whoa, wait a minute. I want you to remember 3 things." "Okay, what's that?" "When you meet them, don't sass them. Don't speak back to them. Don't get angry with them. Whatever happens, keep your temper. 2, don't accept gifts along the way. Don't burden yourself." Okay. I gotta run. No, one more. If you get angry, sit down and ask yourself, why? Why should you be angry? Why do you let something out there, external, person or event, cause you to be upset inside? Why hurt yourself? Because anger hurts yourself if you're not directing it properly, and you never do. Okay, thanks. See you, Master. And off he dashed. Now he had a map, so he knew where these caves were. And he was expected to be gone quite a long time, I mean months. So he starts out, and he comes to the first guy. Have you heard this story? He's up there meditating. He's virtually naked, but he's in another state of consciousness. And Swamiji comes up, you know, oh, he's so nice. Namaste, you know. I said namaste. It went on and on. I don't have a lot of time. I've got to get down this list. Namaste, wake up. He's out cold. He shouted in his ear. Can you imagine? Just nothing moves. He goes over and gets a birch limb, puts it under his butt to knock him over. The birch limb breaks. You know, it's maybe 15 minutes. He's standing in front. He says, "Well, I don't know." And suddenly the guy opens up his eyes, kicks Swamiji in the chest because he was bending over. Swamiji goes topples because he was on a hill, down, and he hit rocks and shrubbery. He cuts himself, bangs himself up. Oh, is he mad? Yeah, perfect control over his temperament. So he picks up a branch. He's going to come up and bash the guy's brains out. He gets up there and he's going to hit him. Gets right in front of him, and he opens up his and says, "Namaste," and just shocks Swamiji. And before he can say anything, he says, "Didn't your master tell you not to lose your temper?" I can't teach students who can't control their emotions. You can leave. He left. Down. Tried. Failed. Okay. I'll make it the next one. The next one, he rounds a cave several miles away. Took him a day or two to get there. And here's the yogi out, and he's a big jolly guy. "Swamiji, come on, son." Oh boy, I like this guy. He comes in, and he walks into a cave, and he can't believe what he sees. Persian rugs. Persian. Golden medallions hanging along the wall. Rubies, emeralds strewn in just piles. It was the Count of Monte Cristo's stash. And Swamiji sees this beautiful lapis lazuli vase. His eyes just, nope. And of course, nothing gets by the yogi. He says, "Oh, Swamiji, you like this?" "Oh, yes. It's yours, son." "Oh, thank you. But didn't your master tell you not to accept gifts?" "Oh, shit." He puts it down. "You better leave, because I can't teach students who don't follow their master's advice. Get out." For 2 years, he failed every teacher he went to. He didn't learn a thing. He was going to commit suicide. He felt so disgusted with himself. Because here his master is the #1 yogi in the Himalayas. He had the reputation. And here's his son who can't follow simple, ordinary courtesy, a few simple rules, just normal hygiene, so to speak. He didn't want to go back to the cave. So he pondered and pondered and pondered. But he missed going home so much, he just used to cry his eyes out at night. Total failure. So he decided he had to go back and take the medicine. Not bad. So he knew the routine at the cave. And he knew his master would be sitting in the major hall, which is larger than this. He always sat there during the center most of the day, meditating. So he snuck in at night when he knew the rest of the monks would be doing their exercises in their cells. And he edges himself across the wall, hoping to get to his old empty cave, because he knew nobody would use it. And his foot hits some rocks and they go tumbling, making a noise. He grits his teeth and freezes. All of a sudden the voice comes, "Who's there?" "Ha ha." "Somebody there?" No voice. "Is that you, my son?" "Oh, he knows." "Yeah, it's me." "Well, come over here. I haven't seen you for almost 2 years." He comes over and he gets a hug and, he's, "Well, how did it go?" As if he didn't know, huh? "Oh, I don't deserve to be your son." "You don't?" "I failed you completely. Everyone I visited to, I violated all those simple things you told me to do. I couldn't control myself at all." "So what do you think we should do?" "Oh, I should just go away. You should throw me out of the cave. I don't deserve your blessings anymore." "Oh." So he puts his arm around him and says, "Son, tell you what." He gets his attention. "Why don't we do this? Why don't we do it one more time? I'll make the arrangements. But this time, you be patient." That's all he said. Guess what happened? He retoured. Now, guess what they did? They poured everything into him. He was what you would know as the mainframe. Huh? Mm-hmm. Every one of those sages put their skills into his unconscious through the practices they taught him, and also they worked on his mind because he was open to it. And then Swamiji came home and reinvented the sutras. There are 4 major chapters. These are classical. They've been around for eons. But what people don't know, there is a 5th chapter now. Swami did experiments no other human being ever performed or invented. And it's all inscribed, but it's in the cave. They're waiting for the right century to release it. And that's the guy who came to us. Not bad, huh? Not bad. So
why did you become a Swami?
Tomorrow.
okay, quickly. I had no intention. As you know, I was married. We were both cruising along with Swamiji. And something started to grow in me. It snuck up on me. I started to become drawn to being more and more independent. And Swamiji hit me over the head one day with a statement. He said, "Watch out, Justin. There's a sleeping renunciate in you." So I ignored it. And as I grew closer to him, guess what happened? I said, "That's what I want." But I felt conflicted, huh? So Teresa and I arranged for an arrangement, and I became a Swami. And then I had a ceremony by a Catholic priest. I made her my sister. So that's how we did it. I was just drawn to it. I wasn't striving for it at all. I just kept being more and more attracted to it. And finally, it came true. Okay? One more thing, if you don't mind. It's a little late, but it was a key point I wanted to bring up tonight. I've been very disturbed by something going on in our society, among other things. But this one really got to me and it stuck with me. Several weeks ago on 60 Minutes, there was an interview with a young man called Clay Hunt. He was a veteran of Afghanistan. And he committed suicide shortly after the interview. And they brought that up. I began to investigate. Something said, research this. And I've discovered that for the past 10 years, on an average, 23 veterans a day have been committing suicide. 10 years. And all of them, same circumstances. Over in Iraq, Afghanistan. Huh? So I decided to go investigate why. So I got as much literature as I could, and I paid close attention to the interviews of the friends of the veterans who died. And the interviews of veterans who've been taunted by taking their life, but somehow they've held off. But they've lost their marriage, they've turned to alcoholism, they go into violent fits of anger. And I began to press hard. What is going on here? And I began to realize that this phenomena is found throughout society, in various levels. They're the most extreme degree. But the psychology of what does it is what began to attract me. And I see this happening in corporations, professions especially professions that are highly acclaimed by society. And it comes down to, and we'll have to talk about this more, but there's a misplaced identity where they forget their real self and they over-identify with a role in society. And as long as they're in the right circumstances, environment for that role, they'll thrive. But they've given themselves so totally to that identity that they have assumed that's who their self is. So here's the key, when these guys come back and they're, they leave their service after, say, 4 years, and they've been over for 3 tours or something like that, and they finally come back into civilian society, they don't know what to do. They're intelligent, they're reasonably healthy, but they don't know what to do. And a clue came to me of an experience I had when I was in the paratroopers. I said, there's the connection. When I was down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I got naturally to know everybody in my company. We were in the service company, so we were in charge of all the records. And I could read anybody's record. I had access to it. So I knew their backgrounds or anything like that. And there was one particular sergeant, about 28 years old, who I liked. And everybody seemed to enjoy his personality. And he was looking forward to finally getting out of the Army. He'd been in for 4 years. And so he was bragging about how he's going to go to New York and, really work out and chase the girls in Brooklyn and all this. So we had a party for him and set him on his way. 3 months go by. Guess who shows up in the barracks one day? He re-upped. And I felt so disappointed because he seemed so charged to get out. And then I listened to him. For some reason, I really paid attention to his words, and I watched his gestures and his face and the questions that the guys were asking him. And he said, "It's a jungle out there." I just didn't know what to do. His life was so regimented, because he was a very good soldier, as it were. So all of a sudden, you take that individual, you put him in an environment where, hey, what are we going to do today? I don't know, let's play around. He couldn't handle it. Nobody told him what to do. He had no orders to follow. Nobody saluted him. Nobody acknowledged him for what he was. Not that they were mad, but he was just another human being, a civilian. He couldn't handle it. And that's what happens more intensely to these guys coming back. Because look what they've been used to. They've seen their buddies blown up before their eyes. They're always in a state of alert. You know what that does to you? And they admitted they came back and they just couldn't fit in. Nobody was giving them orders. They didn't have a schedule. They were getting into arguments with their wife because she was expecting them to be just like a regular civilian. They didn't know what that was anymore. Their whole life was falling apart. And I attributed something in yoga. I wrote it down here. You take 3 concepts: self, identity, and role. Now watch. In society, we all have roles. You're a housewife, you're a businessman, you're a professional, you're an artist, got it? You may have combined them, obviously. But that's what they are, just roles. They're not yourself. Now, if you over-identify with your role, as many men do, so then when they finally are pensioned out, they don't know what to do with themselves. They get depressed. They feel obsolete because they over-identified their self with their role. And that's the trick. That's the trap. And that, put in the same context of the military, they think, they're so proud, They're defending us, sure. And then they come home. Nobody even cares they were over there. They feel all this. Well, I'm glad you had a good time, or I'm sorry you had a rough period. But they don't get the acknowledgement that they expect that they got while they were in the military, and suddenly because they've so enmeshed in their own role, they've misplaced that as their only identity. And that'll destroy you. And so meditation is to take you out of your role. Bring you back to yourself. So now you can choose from the matrix, what role do I want to play now? And if that doesn't work out, so what? I move on. And the way they're trying to psychologically get them back in, they're missing the point. They're trying psychoanalysis. It won't work. NLP would work. I know that because I've dealt with veterans with NLP and got them back on their feet. I don't mean to put a damper on anything. I just had to share that with you tonight. It just hit me. And I wanted to make that point in terms of what really the benefits of yoga in terms of meditation. The fact that we realize we're so much more, this whole matrix of possibilities. And the problem with so many people is they over-identify with their job, their career, whatever it is. And then when that is retired or falls down, they think their life is over. It's a shame.